Woo 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 woo. Woo woo woo. Woo 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 woo. It's like magic. You can remove the rust too. Hello. Hello, Sandman. Welcome, Sandman. Oh, I need to send notifications really quick too. I'll do that really quick. Boop. Send it. And also tweet it. And then put it on Facebook and Instagram. And no, just kidding. It's just on Discord. And Twitter. Whoa, that scared me a little bit.
Tachum Pancakes just resubscribed for 21 months. Woo.
Whoa, Tatum Pancake. Thank you for, I don't know why I said it that way. Thank you for resubscribing, being subscribed for 21 long months. Thank you for that. That's very kind of you. Thank you for supporting a silly little ferret on Twitch, TikTok, Discord, all the places. Zazzy Ferret, hello. The love. What is that? They love phobias? Is it like phobias? Hello. RB, hello. Spooky the shark. I saw Cardboard Moose too, I think. Yes, I did. Ray, Rose Wildfire, hello, welcome.
Bingus 2024 just resubscribed for 11 months. Love you. Platonically.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Love you too. Platonically, of course. Thank you, Bingus, for resubscribing 1 month. And tier 1 for 11 long months. I'm gonna do some more adjustments too. I started a little bit early. Let's see if I'll move this up here. Does that help? I'm like asking you, is it helping? Put this over here. There we go. I do like that. That's pretty good. So I can read your chat better. Yeah, that works, kind of. We'll try that for a little bit. What does that sound mean? What does that sound mean? Oh, think it was a follow. Thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Hopefully you enjoy this silly little stream. This Thursday stream on Twitch. Carver Moose, wash the cars. No, I get paid by the hour, not by the job. So as long as I take longer, I get paid more money. Ugh, don't you know how capitalism works? I was joking. I'm just teasing. My Twitch is buggy. Why is it buggy? Are you watching on your phone? Oh, there's a hype train. Thank you for the hype train, by the way, everybody.
Susie just gifted 1
Hello,
sub.
Beans. Hello, Small. Susie Cute, thank you for gifting a sub to Goose Cortage. Kortga. You love my streams. Thank you. Honestly, I don't know about Twitch sometimes because I like playing more fun music, and that's basically it, actually. Because for me to upload this to YouTube, I gotta use like safe music and stuff. Woo, woo, woo. If you're wondering what we're doing today, I'm gonna goof off like I usually do and try to talk to you if I can. I'll show some fan art, and also we'll play some Pictionary to find out this week's champion of Pictionary. It's very important. Had to leave your stream yesterday. Why Strawberry Delight? No, it's okay. If you have life stuff to take care of, I understand. It's no big deal. The one that has a hurting throat. Oh, your throat's still hurting you? Hopefully it gets better. Sometimes it'll start lingering. It's really annoying. But yeah, I hope it gets better soon though. Morning Bee. I don't know. Sometimes when I have to follow again. What? That is strange that you have to follow again. No worries. Strange things happen though sometimes on different platforms. What? The Sandman? Gotta not get the DMC. Yeah.
Button Squeak just gifted 1 subs.
I'll talk more than a moment actually. Let's see. Oh, Button Squeak. Hello, Button Squeak. Thank you for subscribing on Twitch and being a first-time subscriber, first month. Wait, let's see here. I probably read that all wrong. You're gifted. I was way off. Thank you for gifting tier 1 sub to Nervous Toast. Thank you. That's very kind of you to do that to Nervous Toast. But yeah, DMCA stuff is really annoying on YouTube. Thankfully, it's not as aggressive as it used to be. Now, if they detect something, they're like, hey, you're using copyrighted music, you can't get ad revenue. That's it. If the copyright holder is really aggressive, though, you can get in trouble, I guess. Ziggbee, where are we? I don't know. Oh, this is my late night job. I power wash car. I was doing this some last night the first time on TikTok. Though I think it gave some people anxiety because I didn't finish the car. I only did half of it. So if you have OCD, I very much apologize because I'm not gonna finish this one either. Woo! Chaos. Actually, it's easier if I use 2 of them at the same time too. I shall use 2 of them. Hello, Sky. Welcome, Sky. Ziggbee. Well, I read this. When I read this, I sometimes read the messages like twice. Oh my gosh, it's like twice. I don't know why. Spray. We love the chaos. No, this is kind of like, I don't know about that kind of chaos. So if I'm making like, what are those things you watch and they're like satisfying, and then there's these ones that are unsatisfying. They do it on purpose. You ever see those ones where like this, it's like a perfect fit object, it fits perfectly into like a slot or something, and then there's ones that are like trolls and they slowly do it and then it breaks and doesn't go in there correctly. Be trolling. Oh, thank you for the follow. Who is that? Gold. Hello, Gold. I like Gold. Doing well, thank you. Hopefully you're okay. Wait, did I miss something again? I think I did. I'm not like blocked now. Wait, who's blocked? What? Will Sib be here? No, unfortunately, no, I do not believe Sib will be here. Sib has been having a very hard, rough work week, and they could be napping actually. But yeah, they're not going to be joining me because they're exhausted and tired.
Gifted Page Mustang a subscription. Shrimp to us gifted a tier 1 sub to Page Mustang.
Whoa!
This is their first gift sub in the channel.
Whoa! Thank you, Shrimp Toaster, for giving your very first gifted sub to Page Mustang. Thank you. That's very kind of you, being a Big Bean community supporter by gifting out subscriptions.
Atria 11217 just subscribed.
What is all this stuff going on? Converted from a Prime sub to, am I reading like
Shrimp to us
Atreyu?
gifted Morning VE a subscription. Shrimp to us gifted a tier 1 sub to Morning VE. They have given 2 gift subs in the channel.
Oh my gosh, why am I losing track of this stuff? Button Squeak, thank you again for the community gifted sub. Thank you to Shrimp Toaster for the gifted sub to Mustang. Shrimp Toaster, another one. Let's see, a gifted sub to Morning B. Yes, thank you for that. That's very kind of you. I want to offer. Oh my gosh, thank you, Sandman. That was a bot advertising sus services. Thank you. Oh, let's kind of say thank you to people that gifted it too. Who wants to see some fan art? Anyone want to see fan art, or should we just clean the car? Wait, can you grab like 2 at once? That's not possible, right? Wait, can I grab one with my foot? No, that doesn't. No, you can't do that. It doesn't work that way. I'm making progress very slowly. Look, I can remove the rust too off the tire rims. It looks like it's like black, I think. If I go back, is it easier? Oh, it is a little bit easier if you go back because you have a wider spread. Oh my gosh, that makes it way easier. Oh, I feel so powerful now. Oh my gosh, this feels like I got a huge upgrade. Do you see that? It's beautiful now. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by this funness. Can a couple of mods crash the party? Yeah. I get overwhelmed sometimes when there are other people here. No foxhole today? No, I don't know if I'll go to other places. Maybe a couple other places for fun today. No, not with those tiny paws. Yes, I could. Maybe. There is time for both. Yes, that is true. Let's start. Oh, I can't draw here. Is there any pens here? Oh, there is not. I'll have to leave here if we want to do Pictionary. Whoa, pens. You would think in a garage they would have something to draw with. Come on, it's a garage. You need pens or markers and stuff. Okay, what we're gonna do is I'll show the fan art. How about that? Lots of beautiful fan art to show. Is by chance Grumpy Like in here? Because Grumpy Lucky didn't actually give me a definitive answer if I could show the fan art thing that they showed in this fan art section. If they are here, I'll show it, but if not, I probably won't show it because they didn't definitively say, yes, Ziggbee. Yes, you must show it. Okay. Sadly, I have... No, you have to subscribe, Morning Bee. So it's okay. Well, just being a viewer is always a huge support to streamers. Yeah, drawings. Okay, I will get to drawing pretty soon. I'll come... What? It'll come, I believe. Wait, what? Let me see if I can figure out how to do the art really quick. I go over here. Okay, let's see the art here. The first one is in no particular order. Wait, is it off the screen? Wait, do I see that correctly? It's on the screen, right? Okay, it's streaming correctly. This is from Ashley. I don't know how to say Ashley's second name. I think it might be... It's K-O-T-H-E. I remember you from TikTok, actually. And I want to say it's beautiful. And I want to say how much I appreciate that you mentioned that it is referenced from another image. And I've seen that image a couple times, actually, on Google. I tried to figure out who the original maker was, too, and I couldn't figure it out. But there's like a lot of references of this particular... it's almost like a base on pixelart.com. I don't think that's a source, but yeah, it's hard to find sometimes the original source of things. But yeah, what's most important though is that thank you for saying that you referenced it from, at least telling us we know it came from somewhere. You did a good job. You did a good job making your version of it. Very nice. Thank you. And thank you for letting me show it too. Next up on our list. Oh my gosh, I'm laying them twice. This one is by, oh, I'm sorry, you can't see the, oh no, you can't see the, what if I bring this power washer really close? Then you can probably see the name. Is that working? Wait. I'm gonna figure this out. There we go, let's leave it there. Does that work like that? Yeah, oh, no. Almost figured this stuff out. How do I do this? Why can't I figure this out? I go like this. There we go. There we go. Okay, I'll leave it like that. Does that work? This art was done by Magic Dino 7 on TikTok. And unfortunately, they didn't have other social medias. So I used the TikTok version. I couldn't ask them personally if I can use it, but I think they would appreciate that I'm showing the art on here. So I want to show it. But that's at Magic Dino 7. They made this beautiful art of me. I think I might have made it during the stream almost, possibly. But you did a very good job, Dino, Magic Dino. I'm very impressed. It's Vixen Crow. Hello, Vixen Crow. You made it to the Twitch. Weird way of saying it. But yeah, good. Thank you. Drawbo Delight. Oh, so cute. Yeah, that's very cute.
Brit_Brit 2828 just resubscribed for 5 months. Hi Ziggbee. I love Thursdays because you stream.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Brit for resubscribing. I really appreciate it. And I know it makes it a little easier to find me sometimes because I do stream at very odd hours on TikTok. Sometimes the late hours. But yeah, at least I can be consistent a little bit with Twitch timing. I made it to a stream for once. This Vixen Crow. It said actually too, like your first time chatter. You can probably see that in the stream too, that it says that. Thank you, Magic Dino 7, for making beautiful fan art and yeah, thank you. That's very kind of you. Did a very good job. Next on here is none other than I don't know about this. I didn't realize that I would have issues with the text. Okay, there we go. I'll stand over here. That's from Tatum Salty Crab Cakes. Made a beautiful Detective Ziggbee fan art that says, "Ah, yes, was me the whole time." I don't know why I'm talking like that, but yeah, I was telling a story about a dragon that lost their gold, but I was gonna help them, and it turned out I stole it. The end. But yeah, it's very cute. Thank you, Tatum Pancake. I was trying to do the detective thing some more, but I got too embarrassed last night. I need to practice that. being able to just get in the, what do you call it? Is that called like acting and stuff possibly? Yeah, that's so awesome. Yeah, it is. I love it. It's beautiful. Thank you, Tatum. Thank you, Tatum Crab Cakes. I love it very, very much. Tatum Crab Cakes, why can't you play a Ring Fit Adventures with me? Just kidding. I'm just joking. You don't have to do that. Let me show the next art too. Oh yes. I love when you do, yes. Sorry. This is by, I'll move this thing down so you can see it. Ooh. Ooh. I'll put it right there. There we go. Paige Mustang, you're here too. This is, I love it. I love this picture very much. It's very beautiful. It's of Sib with the shrimp shirt. I can't talk. So talented. Yeah, there's very talented individuals in the Ziggbee community. I love, you captured Sib really well too. That real authentic hair on Sib's hair, which is real, and that beautiful shrimp shirt, and the beautiful rainbow colors, and the many stars. Oh, I think you captured Sib's stars, because I can see that some of the stars have like 8 points, some have 4. So that's definitely Sib's stars. Did a very good job, Paige Mustang. Thank you for making this too, and let me show it. Sib, showed it to Sib. Sib loves it too, by the way. Sib loves the fan art too. I'm hungry for Sib stars. Nigel hot dog. Well, you have to stock up, okay? Next time you see Sib, you're gonna have to ask for like a large supply. Maybe he can ship like a pallet to you. I don't know how much of a supply he has. I think he bought it in bulk. I'm just hungry. Tatum Pancake, eat something. What do you mean you're just hungry? Oh, I ate something today. I mean, that's not surprising. That's probably not the most exciting news. But you know what I ate? This is all possibly boring too. I had gluten-free pizza before I started streaming, like hour ago or so. It was pretty good. It was pretty good. Need to go to Costco for stars. I don't know if they sell them at Costco. But actually, I got the pizza from Costco. It was gluten-free pizza from Costco, frozen, and it was really good. It was really good. Get that bulk amount of stars for cheap. You have to, especially if you know you're going to use it a lot, right? I also tried different gluten-free things. I don't know if Tammy Beans is here, but Tammy Beans might watch the VOD on YouTube. And they're the ones that kept talking about gluten-free stuff and it helping them. So I'm like, I want to try some things to see. So far I tried noodles, gluten-free. They don't taste as good as wheat noodles, but because they're made from chickpeas. You know what chickpeas are? They're like things you put in salads, but they made like them into noodles. They were pretty okay. And the pizza, that was really good too. I even had like a sandwich from like, if you know what Jersey Mike is, it's basically like a sub sandwich place. I tried their gluten-free bread. It wasn't bad. I was very impressed. So that's very cool. I wish we had Sib in here. Aww. I know. Sib's been very busy though, unfortunately. I'm sure you'll see him again though. He'll come back here sometime and you could just see him and ask him for his cursed stars. I mean his beautiful stars. Sky, you love Jersey Mike's? Way better than oh yeah, definitely, without a doubt. It's way, Jersey Mike's is way better than Subway. It's kind of expensive though too, depending if you get a huge sandwich. Oh my gosh, Ball! I'm not even gonna repeat that in case Sib can hear me. Are you laughing? So again, thank you, Paige Mustang, for this beautiful art. I kind of like leaving it up there too because it's so pretty. Thank you for letting me show it too, Paige. You did a very good job too. Amazing work. I love it. And this is from Nat. Look at this. What was that? Oh my gosh.
Isaac Duran just resubscribed for 11 months. We're almost 12 awesome months. Also, hello Ziggbee.
Hello to you too, Doran. Thank you for resubscribing and being subscribed for 11 long months on Twitch. I can't believe I've been doing it for this long. Was I supposed to be doing this so long? I'll probably do it. I don't know how. I'll do it forever probably. Is that okay? Until people stop watching. Yeah, Nat. Oh, Nat, actually, their last one, we made it in a sticker. I asked them for permission. I might ask Nat for permission to use this as a sticker too, because it looks awesome. Doesn't it? Should I ask Nat for sticker permission for this too? What are you talking about, Mornings B? You should drink some water and stuff and take it easy. Headaches are not fun. Small? What? Yeah? All the stickers? Yeah, we do have lots of slots available, honestly. We have a lot of emoji slots and sticker slots still. This would be a great sticker. I agree. It would totally be a great sticker. And that with the cute art style. Yeah! That has a really, really unique cute art style. I really enjoy it. I really enjoy. Look at all those beans, too. That's like, I think, very highly accurate to an actual ferret's beans. They got like all kinds of beans everywhere. Bat bee. I have to ask Solar about that. Solar's like holding out bat bee. I think there's a bat bee floating around, but I don't have access to it. I'm not a part of that exclusive club, apparently. Wow! Wow! Get out of here, bat. Bats are adorable, by the way. I posted a thing on possums in the Discord. Baby, possums are so cute. Oh my gosh, they're so cute. I learned some new things too. Like, possums are not super like aggressive, and their bite isn't strong. So they just try to use intimidation if you encounter them. They'll open their mouth to try to be scary, but they're not really. And then they play dead, basically. It's an involuntary response sometimes, and they just to try to be safe and stuff. They're so cute. They're lower body temperature so they don't get rabies. They're really awesome. I like them. I want to see some more. They're so adorable. I can tell you a story about a possum. I remember a long time ago, there was this container of like dog biscuits, right? And it was nighttime. This is a long time ago, and I don't know why I was checking out the window, but I checked out the window, and by the dog biscuits, there was a possum on top of it, eating the biscuits. And like a cat walked right next to it, oblivious that it was there. And the possum was like, and then like hissed at it. I was like, oh no, please don't fight. But they didn't fight, it just was like trying to be scary, and the cat like just completely ignored it. I don't know why. Dog biscuits, yeah. They like to eat all kinds of things. Oh, sorry. Nat, thank you for showing this fan art, and thank you for letting me show it on stream too. Thank you. Biscuit boy. I like possums. They're so cute. And here we have something. Oh my gosh. We have this is Detective Ziggbee. This was created on Werewolf Billy's second account. Let me see if I can show it. I know Werewolf Billy didn't say I should. I'm just doing this without permission. At an ocean of clay. That's their like kind of almost like their business TikTok. They have their main one, which is Werewolf_Billy, but they also have an ocean of clay, and they were streaming on there, and they made a Detective Ziggbee, and it's adorable. They make other clay stuff too. They were kind enough to send me one of their works as well. I showed it on stream. They made an actual Ziggbee, a little one with the rainbow sweater. It's really cute. They actually have an Etsy shop and stuff, and they make things. It's really, yeah. Also, their TikTok shows their work as well, which is really cool. What does it say? I found clay recently, and I'm tempted to make a little Ziggbee and sit on my desk. Wait, small, what kind of clay? I forgot what it's called, but I'm tempted to get clay too, because Werewolf Billy made it look pretty fun and like not super complicated. Like, I'm sure you take skill, but it looks really fun to play with and try to make things. You should make one, Small. Yeah, Paige is right, Small. If you ever feel motivated to do things, and you feel excited about it, and you're like, I want to do this, do it. You should just do it. Like that meme, because then you'll have some fun. Because if you wait too long and think about it, you get bored of it and be like, I don't want to do it anymore. And you lost your opportunity of motivation to do it. My keyboard doesn't like me. Sometimes that happens, Morning B. You might need to get rid of it. Whenever I get keyboards, well, my keyboard's a little nicer, but whenever I buy mice, like keyboard, like computer mice, I get like the cheapest Logitech one. It's like $10. So sometimes it's nice to get cheap things because they're easily replaced. Wait, that sounds weird. Paige, I think that's an ocean of clay. Wait, what? I think that's an ocean of clay accepts commissions. Oh yeah, I think they do too. Yeah. You will have to ask them. Yeah, I think they do commissions as well. Yeah. You can ask Werewolf Billy. I'm sure they'd be happy to tell you what they can do and what their what do you call it, their commission costs and fees and stuff. Whoa. I don't know. That was fun to that's fun to spin around. And that's it for the fan art section, really. Wait, one more thing too. Wait. Okay. Nothing wrong with being chonky, but why did Billy, why'd you make me so chonky? I got like smushy and I'm more chunky. That's okay, I'm just joking. But it's okay to be chunky and fluffy. Be fluffy. Be like Fluffy, that's good. Whoa. It's cute. It is really adorable. It is really cute. The one thing about clay, I always wondered, like, how could you possibly do things? Because, like, I imagine my paw just touches it just slightly and makes, like, fingerprints all over it. And it's like, oh, I broke it again. But I guess you use special little tools and you roll things in balls and gently put it on and then take the tool. And it's really fun to watch. Buff B? No, I'm not Buff B. I would like to be Buff B. Do you know how to become Buff B? I've been playing that Ring Fit a lot. Hopefully I will be a little bit Buff B, but I don't think it doesn't like give you big muscles though. It like tones. I'm giving you information. Everyone write this down. No, just kidding. There's two different kind of like exercising. There's stuff you do with light weights, right? Like if I just lift my arms like this, I just stick my tongue out too. It's like you'll tone up, which will not grow the muscle big. It'll just make it better. I'm not explaining this very good. Yeah, it's supposed to be good for your core. Yeah, the core is very important. Usually the core is around your abdominal, your abs. Abdomen. Okay, I forget it. Abs are easier to say. Small, my work experience has me carrying full buckets of water around a zoo. It's true workout. My arms hurt so bad right now because of it. How long have you been doing that, Small? You have to walk like a super far amount of like, you have to walk super far too? You have like big muscles then. If your arms get exhausted all the time. 2 days so far? Oh my gosh. I'm pretty sure you're probably super sore. Thankfully, if you keep doing it though, you get a little bit used to it and it stops getting sore because your muscles build up enough that you're used to it. But yeah, I know Small knows stuff about animals and stuff. Small is very smart and going to school and works at a zoo, which is very fancy. Give Small what does that mean, Small? I mean, a Sandman? Oh, trolley. What does that translate in the UK? What's it? I trolley. What does that mean? Is that like a what is it called in the US? Like a cart, Ziggbee. Oh yes, thank you, Solar. Thank you. Yeah, let me clean a little bit more, and then we'll go play some Pictionary too. Does that sound good? I might check for a place that is like an art. Actually, in chat, tell me. I forget everything, honestly. Like, thank goodness that Sandman and A-Riddy reminded me of stuff I wanted to do. Like, try lime with a little bit of salt and sugar, because I like sour things, and that sounds kind of good. And also, A-Riddy reminded me to do, I wrote it down in like a shopping list. Something, what is it? Mint, spicy jelly? Oh, what's my point? Oh, my point is, if you know any fancy art places in VR chat, say it in chat and I'll see if I can find it that have like canvases and stuff. I forget what it's called again. I think it's a great idea. They're just roll away. What? Life drawing VRC world. Oh, thank you, life drawing. Thank you, Solar. Solar is the best dragon I know. It's fitting that you tell me where it is too, because you are a very talented art dragon. But I guess you don't need me to tell you that. Whee! Look how much I did. I should do the back where the camera is, because that's probably an eyesore. There you go. There you go. See, now it's pretty. Now it's all pretty. I don't have to do the other side or anything. It's just pretty now. As long as your perspective sees a clean car, the whole car is clean. Assume it, right? Okay, I'm just messing around. That's fun to do. There actually is a game on, I never got it though. There's a game where you can power wash and you get paid for it on like Steam. Good job, Zuby. Thank you. Thank you, Luna Bean. Okay, let's find that place. How do you find that place? No, I forgot it already. Life drawing VRC. Life drawing. I'll do put in the search. Life draw. Oh, did I do the VRC? Oh, there's a couple life drawings. Wait, will you put the VRC in there? Is that required? I guess I'll try this and you can yell at me if it's not correct. The thumbnail has a sitting lady. I see a lady standing and they're holding their leg up. Is that it? Maybe the lady's in a different pose. Let's go there and try that. If not, we can try a different place. That one does have a picture of a lady. Oh my gosh, don't look at this stuff. How do I go back up here? Go there and then go. Is this the right one? No, that's not the right one. Wait, where's the be right back? Okay, there it is. I do that. You know when I do that I usually do that? No VRC? Okay. I usually talk to myself. Like if I'm in grocery stores and stuff, I'll just talk to myself. Hopefully it's not too
just
strange.
Resubscribed for 4 months.
Thank you. Fight Mitz. Thank you for using your Prime subscription and resubscribing for 4 months. Why have I feel like I've never said your name before? You must be a lurker, possibly. If you are, thank you, lurker. Lurkers are the MVPs of Twitch because there are a lot of you. What am I doing? Oh, I need to put the camera up, don't I? And I'll make the camera put it here, and then. Hello. I should take it in the light though. Why are we in the darkness? I'll put it over here so it's not all creepy. Like, wait, do they have a thing to make it so I can not be so short? That might be a problem. I can't reach. Unlock canvas. Click me up or start drawing to claim. Oh no, it's not made for small. Small little ferrets. Oh, what is this? Can I write on this board over here? What is this? Unclaimed canvas. I need a step ladder. Okay. I'm gonna try this really quick, see what it looks like. Whoa, that feels kind of fancy. It almost looks like an old school, like paint. Oh, there's another one over here too. What is this? I can use this too? Oh, there's colored pencils here. What is this? Erase? What is forest? Whoa. What is, oh. Hello, forest. Wait, where did it go? Is it just like a window? Wait. Okay, that's a little bit of magic. It disappears. Oh, there you are again, forest. Hello. Okay, I'll bring the camera over here to the big whiteboard because I can reach that more easily. I can reach this more easily. I'm still very short though. Oh, what is this over here? Color thesaurus? Names of colors and shades. I can't. Flamingo. Eggplant. Space. Sea. Russet. Charcoal. I can't believe they have so many different names. Oh, what is avatar seats? Is someone saying something probably? I heard of those games too. Oh my gosh, what are we talking about? Oh, Ziggbee, it's too tall for you. Yeah, I think I see something over here though. I think I see, what is it? Oh, that's a model. Avatar seat, possibly. Maybe these are references. What is hand? Oh my gosh, I just put a big creepy hand in the middle there. What if I click these other things? What is this? Oh my gosh. Excuse me, sir. If that person moved to scare me, I would probably have a heart attack. They look very real. It's they look eerie, like creepily. Is that a way to say that? Creepily real? Let's see the oh, the lady sitting down. That's what you're talking about. Oh, why do they look so real? Oh, you know what? I think I know how these are captured. Probably they probably use some sort of like scanning where they take many pictures around a person and they make a 3D model. What? Small? What, am I missing something? This fair. What about what am I doing something wrong? Named after vegetables. What? I'm reading stuff out of context. Ziggbee, you move the canvas around in this world. The easels don't adjust. Wait, what? What? You move the canvases around? Can I grab it? How do you grab it? Lock it. And then how do I grab it? Oh, the handle right here? Oh, okay. It's my first day in art class, okay? Don't make fun of me, jeez. It's my first, I didn't even get the itinerary yet. Is it called itinerary? No, syllabus. Syllab something? Oh my gosh, I haven't been to school in a long time. I can put this here now. Thank you. Thank you. Can I look at more creepy things though? I want to show you the lady though. Look at. I know some of you have been here, like Solar has been here. I'm sure probably Small has been here too. But look how real they look. They can't see their face. If I jump up, does that work? Level, let's get up, turn to level. Do you see the lady? Lady, you look real. You look super real. What are you doing? Are you a model? Avatar seat, what is that for? Oh, I can't get up there. It's like a ghost. Draw me. Woohoo. Now I'm a model too. Linda Evan Lesta, that's an actress. Is that an actress? I'm assuming. It sounds like an actress. Whoa. Whee. You want to see a creepy hand? Look at creepy hand. Wait, it didn't disappear. Okay. Oh, I didn't click it right. Then turn off avatar seat. Behold, the ultimate high of fives. Here you go, high five. Is it okay I'm distracted by everything? I gotta check everything out, okay? Make sure it's safe for you. Just kidding. No, just kidding. It's just fun to check out stuff. There's a still life table, dynamic posing. What does that mean? Does that do some dynamic posing? There's like a whole bunch of little spheres here. What are these? Whoa, what does this thing do? Toggle mirror. Whoa, what is this? What mirror? Oh, I see a mirror. Okay, I can see what I'm looking like. Okay, and then this is exits. There's actually numbers on these spheres. How about 8? I can't see. Here. I'll how do I bring you closer? I'll bring you closer, okay? So you can see what's going on. Put you right here, maybe? And then level it. Okay, watch. Let's do number 6 or number 9. What? What am I doing? I can't see what I'm doing. Here, let me put it on the side, maybe. Let's see. 9. What am I doing? I'm like thinking or something. How about number 1? That was good. That's cool though that you can like pose. You can like pose and stuff, I guess, if you want to draw your friends' avatars and stuff. That's very impressive. That's like super impressive. It would be helpful if they made it so that you can make the models do poses too, but they're not like they're not rigged for it. Obviously, it's just the model. What was this room? Spooky's in this room. There's spooky skeletons in this room. What is all this stuff? Oh, this is art that's been done. Wow, that's really fancy, actually. If they did it on the canvases, I see a Psyduck. Ooh, ooh! Look at all this stuff. Whoa! Some of these are like really good. This is like actual real art. That's weird. That's weird to say it like that. There's more. I want to see more. I'm sorry. Listen, picturing needs to be put on hold. This is. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Look at this. What is all this? Whoa. I should have come here earlier. I should not have waited so long to come here. Oh, those are beautiful landscapes. Are they grouped by, oh, this must be, wait, this section is animals, this little section here. And then this is like patterns and colors and stuff. I'm not sure what that'd be classified as. These are plants, these couple panels, eyes, and what are these over here? People? It might be people or something. Oh, it's more people? Different types of people. Maybe like cartoons, anime, and different versions? And more people. Whoa, that's really cool. Okay, we're done with the art show. We're gonna play Pictionary. That's really cool. I'm gonna take you far over here. What is this? Calligraphy system. Oh, is that like the system that's being used to make this cool stuff? I'll put you over here. Is that a good spot? Let me see. No, you need to be closer. A little bit closer. Sorry, I wasn't paying attention to chat too. Is that okay? There we go. Let me look at chat. What's going on in the chat? People? Question mark? Yes, and man, I don't know. I couldn't figure out the logical grouping of what exactly they were trying to do. Wow, this world is so cool. Yeah, it is, Lavender. I didn't expect it to be this neat. A close-up of you. What? You saw Red Panda? Red pandas are adorable too. I'll go put this right here. Oh, no, I don't have to go far away. What am I doing? And then, can I use... Wait, are these the old school pens? Oh yeah, these are the old school ones. And you get like the calligraphy brush, which should be over here. Oh, I gotta jump up there. Come on. There we go. I got it. I don't know if you have to get the exact same brush. Can you change the color of the brush? How do you do that? Maybe avatars? Oh, possibly. Yeah. Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, they're drawings of avatars. Yeah. That makes sense. I usually don't hang out in public places. I think there's quite a few avatars that like look like anime types kind of style. That would make sense that I saw a lot of them look kind of like animes almost. When you look up at the camera when it was up high, it's absolutely adorable. No, don't say I'm adorable. Does anyone know how to change the color? Let's see. There's grid. Is there like a button hidden on here? Or do you have like an easel? It should show you instructions on the brush. You can drop colors on the wall and the palette. Wait. This over here. Maybe this is... I didn't see any instructions on the brush. Wait, what is this? Classic brushes for canvases dedicated to all great artists. Can't jump up. They need to make some... Oh, there's a color thing. Okay, is this it? I found a thing. I think I found a clue. I put this over here. I'll put this over here. Let's put this right there. Okay. Ooh. I've never had so many colors of VR chat before. Let's see if it works. If I just touch it? Wait. No, it doesn't work that easy, does it? No. You said there's instructions on the pen? How do you make them appear? Oh, you push the button. There's a button. Then what? Oh. Oh. This is fascinating. Oh, I made it red. And what's this for then? Like, I can't just like touch this? Maybe it's for something else. I'm sorry, I should read chat. There you go. You have to have the brush menu up to touch it. Oh. Oh, and you can't go across really. You have to get like the very end of the brush has like a little red, like a red line. And you go touch, oh gosh, my face is just going right through it. Watch. And then, oh, that's kind of confusing. Go put it like this. And then turn this color. And then I'm holding the button down. And it turns this color. If you're new here, you're tuning to Ziggbee Plays with Colors. And it's fun and magical. Learning noises. Those are definitely learning noises. Sandman. Oh, sorry. Okay. I just need to figure out how to erase too. How do you do... Solar, how do you erase? Oh, wait, let me check the menu on the brush. Maybe it says something. Round, wet, illustration, flat. Okay. If you use the back of the brush, you have a variety of colors. I know, I never had this many colors before. If I use the back, or do I just have to put it white on it again? Is that how that works? Oops. Do I have to go like, I want white, and then it'll go, no, then it went black for some reason. White. Is that how you do it? It's meant to emulate real paintings so you can't erase. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, that's okay to do. The flavors are melting on my, wait, what? All right, let's draw some stuff. I'll lock the camera to... I can't line, I'm not very good at lining this up. And if I lock it there, woo, I can draw here. Okay, let's give this a try. Let's see if Pictionary is working properly and stuff. Strawberry Delight says, I remember that Santa you drew. You didn't have any skin cells. Yeah, I was surprised that TikTok got so many views too. It was unexpected. I really was like not sure what to do, and I'm like, you know, the pan makes skin tones at different angles. Let's give this a try. It worked. Though it made it look like Santa was smoking or had something in their mouth though. Me too, you seem so proud. Wait, what's going on here? That was so good. Yeah. That's your favorite. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Hopefully, I at least like to make, if I can, even though I don't like, I'm not a real comedian, but if my little things I do make people laugh, I think it's awesome and that's fun. Okay, now that I have all the colors I could possibly want, I'm gonna use black. Maybe it wasn't that funny. I don't know what's funny to me. No, I'll do a different color next time, but let's use black. Actually, it's kind of like a gray, honestly. All right. Let me see if the Pictionary works. Let's see here. Go to Pictionaries, and then say, what is this? Okay, I can maybe draw that. Start the round. No guessing, everybody. Just don't be cheating. Okay, let's see if I can. I need to do it from the side. Oh my gosh, I'm making messes. Okay, give me a moment. I need a moment. I need to erase that first. This is not right. Okay. Now go like this. Yes. Okay, I got this. Okay, ready? People aren't guessing earlier, already. Wait, what am I drawing again? Okay. Okay, it says yes. Can you see? Okay, I'm not blocking it, am I? I need like a finer point though. I should probably look at the different brushes. Oh, someone already got it. I'm trying to draw like a complicated diagram. Ooh, I was gonna draw more, but it looks like you got it already. It's driver. I was trying to point at the driver of the car. I was trying to show direction because that's kind of important. So you know who the driver is? Let's see how many got that right. Show the round scores. Wow, cardboard, good job, Cardboard Moose. I mean, I didn't mean to say like super it's like, I can't believe you did that. That's impossible. No, I'm just kidding. Cardboard Moose, your first place for that. Good job. We have Soul Sorrows, second place for that. And third place is Sandman. Good job. Oh, there you go. Fight Mitts. You got on the board too. Congratulations. Dino Wishes is on there. Old Slow, the Otter's on there. Paige Mustang and Taylor. Good job. You all got that. It's kind of hard to guess it sometimes. I mean, I'm not necessarily guess it. You're supposed to figure out what it is, not just guess. Is there a way to easily? Oh, reset. Yes. Oh, I can easily reset it. I might see if there's a different type of I'll close the score. I'll hide the scores for the time being. A different kind of pen I could use. That's more fine point. Let's see. Round. Oh my gosh, it gets big. Oh, I see. It gets different sizes. Can you see that? I'll show you just in case you don't know this place. Here, watch. And then I go over here. Wait, I gotta touch it. And then it gets small, it's bigger, and I go the other side, and the point gets really tiny. Let's try like a medium point. Let's see how that works. And I'll choose a different color too on this cool board. Let's go with kind of like a sky blue. We'll do like a sky blue. It looks like a blowtorch. No, sorry. A Bunsen burner. Let me look at chat really quick too, really. Good night. Who's going to bed? You're that surprised, LOL? Oh, LOL saying, what's going on here? Am I missing something? Driver jumped out of the car. No. Is morning be going to bed? If you're going to bed, good night, sleep well. And if anyone else going to bed, sleep well, okay? Ziggbee, you know what would be fun one day? To go to the old fan art world. Wait, did you see when I did that? I did that before. How about at the end, I'll go to the very first one. I haven't shown that one in probably a year or longer. Wait, does it still exist? Oh, it doesn't. I think it's gone. Wait, let me think. I don't know. I'll look up later. I'll see. Memories. Okay, next word. Let's see what we got for next word. Next prompt. This is 2 words. To be fair, when I tell you it's 2 words, there should be a space. It's singular. Okay, I'm giving you too many tips, so probably. Start the round. 2 words, singular. There is a space in it, I believe. Hope I can use this pen, or this brush better. Let's see. How would I do this? Okay. Oh gosh, I'm making such a mess. I'm trying to draw too fancy, I think. Let's draw this over here. This might help. Does that work? It looks kind of weird. I'm not used to this kind of what do you call that? Brush thing? The answer is golf cart. Does it look like a golf cart? I was trying to draw like almost 3D, but I was probably getting too carried away with that. Let's see how we did on the scores for the round scores for that. Sandman! Sandman got it. Impressive, Sandman. First place on golf cart. Then we have Mount Laurel, second place, and third place is Page Mustang. Good job. Good job. I do like little clap. Oh, I see new additions to the list too. Featuring Rat, Noah, Harby. Good job. Dorn's on there now. Good job. Tatum Pancakes. Okay. Reset. Yes. Okay, that's cool. I'm gonna pick another color again. Let's pick a warm color. Let's pick like a, is that orange or copper? Copper is like really bright, right? I can never pick out colors for metallics because it's like they're not actually metallic here. I'll go with this one. I don't know what this. Actually, can I go look at the list? That's me yelling. Watch, I'm gonna go to the list. Wait, that won't help me. Wait, which color is this? This might be burnt orange. It's not spice and everything nice. It's not rust. I think this might be possibly burnt orange. Okay, maybe, I don't know. If you don't know this, like the tubes of like fancy oil paints and stuff, they give them all fancy names. Each color has like a fancy name. Okay. I know because I've seen them in art stores. Hide that. Woo, woo, woo. Tangerine. Oh, probably. Thank you, Sandman. Tangerine, too. You can name colors. You can name the colors. There's so many. I can't believe. Yeah. Oh, I like colors. There's so many. Use any. Oh my gosh, I'm reading the bot's message. Ziggbee, how did you know what a car looks like? A magic. I can look into your realm. I can't participate in your realm, but I can see everything. I can produce anything that you have in your realm for the most part. Magic! Sorry, I'm yelling. I guess I'm trying to yell to make a bigger effect. Did it work, or was it just annoying? No, my car. What do you mean your car? Did I draw your car? Does your car look like that? Wait, is everyone in chat in the game? Yeah, like, well, not physically. Physically, this is digitally we're talking about. They're not in this world, but yeah, everyone in chat is playing by typing them what they think it is. It's, yeah. Lexi, you're new here. It's okay. We usually play like Pictionary on Twitch. Yeah, it's Pictionary, exactly. Though I might have to act out one of the words because one of them's complicated, I think. I peeked ahead of time. Let me go to the next prompt to see what we have. What? How do I draw that? Let me think here. I don't know if I want to do this one because it's like not a good thing. Okay, let's try it. I'm gonna act it out because I don't know how to draw this, honestly. And I apologize, this is not a good thing necessarily. Okay, it's one word. It's not a good thing unless I'm reading it completely wrong. Okay, ready? I'm gonna cheat and just be like charades. Wait, then it wouldn't be. No, I can't do that. Then it wouldn't be a Pictionary. Okay, I'm gonna do a different word. Champion of Pictionary and sometimes charades. No. Okay. This is 2 words. It's singular, just so you know. Okay. Start the round. Put it. Where does it go? Okay. I need more room to draw though. Let's see. Oh my gosh, I don't want to do that too big. Wait, it's not gonna make any sense yet until I start drawing more things. It's like that. Does that help at all? I should lock the camera too. Boop, boop. I'm standing in front of it. I could draw more things to help you possibly, but it's probably too late though, unfortunately. I was trying to draw a golf ball and stuff. Yeah, it's sand trap. A sand trap. It's 2 individual sand traps. Let's see how we did on that. Sand pit? They're typically called sand traps, I think, as far as golf terms go. Golf course. Golf course would have been a good guess though. Let's see the round scores for that one. Ooh. Oh, it was kind of hard. It was kind of hard. We have Tatum pancakes. We have Paige, and we have cardboard moose. Good job. Only 3 people got it. Whoa. That's probably too difficult of a one. Whoop. Whoop, 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 whoop. Hide the scores. Let's see here. Pro golfer here. Unlike small. Well, oh my gosh, you're trash talking. You're trash talking poor small. I guess small isn't that innocent, really. I'm trash talking small now too. Redeems. Oh my gosh, I didn't do any of the redeems. Oh, hydrate. Oh, thank goodness there's only one redeem. Thank you for being gentle on me. 7 minutes ago from Luna being, I will do hydration for you, okay? And while you do that, listen to the beautiful music. Ooh, of a harp, I believe. Is that a harp? I think it might be a harp. Where's my water? Oh, there it is. Or small. What about me? What about you, Tatum pancakes? You're innocent. You're an innocent angel. See, I think I gave you a compliment. That's a good thing, right? You need a little teacup. There's like a little teacup? I don't have one though. Delicious. I'll drink one more too. Qualified. I might change my outfit too. I like the Freddy Fazbear one. Freddy Fazbear. The Monty one's cool too, but the glasses kind of get in the way. There we go. How's that better? Is that better? It would be so fancy. Yeah, it would be super fancy if I just had like a teacup. What if I could just make one appear in my hand and I'm like, delicious tea, and make it disappear? Let me see what the next word is. We'll do like a couple more. Maybe like 3 or 4 more. What is that? I'm gonna try to draw this, but I don't. Okay, it's one word. I'm gonna try to draw it. It might be this one. Might be a hard one too. Not the round. Oh, I didn't get my pencil or my brush. I'll pick green for this one, okay? I'll try to draw something pretty. Let's see if I can do this. How's that? Is that beautiful? This pen's really fun, kind of. And then do like, they have the divots. I didn't use circles on this. Some of these are too big. I should have just tapped it. There you go. Is that pretty good? It should be T. I think that's what that's called, right? That's a T. Mr. T. No, that's a T, right? The one that's down here, like it's like a railroad spike. Let's see how we did for that one, okay? For the splitting the T. What does that mean, Sam? And is that a term? Got it. Let's see here. First place for T is Lavender Luna. Good job. You got it. First place. You play golf, Lavender, by chance? Atreyu's on there. Second place. Dino Wishes, third place. And there's an additional third place person. There's a Sandman. Good job. I also see Lexi on there, Paige, Doran, and Fight Knits. Good job. I am thoroughly impressed. How many was it? That's like 3 so far, I think, right? That's like 3. I should be on there. I put the word golf in front of it. Golf tee? Well, that's not the answer, so, Luna, Bean, why are you doing a suspicious, like, Sib emote? What's going on? Spelling the T. Uh-oh. Golf gate. No, golf gate. We're not doing golf gate. Let's see the next word. Oh, I can't. No, I can't draw that. No, that's too hard. Oh, yes. We shall do this one. We shall do. I'm gonna pick a color too. Where's my brush go? Where's my magic brush go? I want this color. Boop. There we go. I got a pretty color. Okay. And start the round. I want to like stand in the way though because it'd be easier to draw things. Wait. Wait. I'm gonna stand in the way a little bit. Wait. Why isn't it writing? Oh, it's not writing. What's going on? Did I break it? Try again. Okay, is that better? Or is it broken now? Or did I push lock or something? Oh no, what did I do? Unlock it? Lock it. Is it working now? I broke the brush. I'm gonna stop it because I don't know what happened. I need more paint. Where do I get more paint from? What does it say? Oh, glitch. Does that happen occasionally? Let me try to reset again. No, I need a new easel. Okay, that's fine. We'll throw this one in the garbage. Whee! And I'll try to get a new one. Maybe resetting it caused it to have a memory leak and fail. Okay, got in this one. Gotta jump. Oh, there we go. There we go. Okay, I got it. Does this still work? Okay, it still works. That's good. Okay. They just have a limited number of refreshes? It's like you can't reuse this over and over again. It's like, yes, I want to. I gotta put it right here. Okay. I'm going behind here. Okay. And then I'll reset it and probably break it again. There we go. And then I need to put it here. And then there we go. Okay. Let's try that again. I'll change the color over here. This one. And I need to change the brush size. Whoa. Who's that? What's going on?
China Warner 88 just resubscribed for 3 months. Yes, Ziggbee heart hug Ziggbee heart hug Ziggbee all.
Aw, that's sweet. Thank you. Tina Warner, thank you for resubscribing with your Prime and being subscribed for 3 months and using the cute emotes in the message. Thank you. Thank you for that. Whoa. Oh, sorry. I'm going to draw stuff. And start the round. How round you going to make it? Let's see. I don't know. I don't know how it's like. I'm not doing a very good job with this one. Oops. I didn't make all of it yet. Wait. Is that what they do sometimes? It's very artsy. It's a flamingo. I don't think I did the backside correct though. Aren't they like more rounded in the back? But they do have some tails, right? And they eat little shrimpy things, I think. There you go. The little shrimpy things. Doesn't quite look very shrimpy. Show me the round scores for that one. Dun, 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 dun. It's a flamingo gold obstacle. What? Oh, golf obstacle. Yes, it is. That's a fancy golf course if you have flamingos as obstacles. Oh, we have a lot of people that got it. We have the 3 people. Oh, whoa, a lot of people got it at the end too, because I see what happened here. It looks like Lexi possibly got it, and then everyone was like, oh, I know what it is. So possibly. So Lexi, your first place there, and then second place Taylor Sandman got it in, and also a third place. How do you change that font? I think it's Dakith. Dakith, I think. If I'm saying your name wrong, I apologize. Alice in Wonderland. Oh yeah, that's right. That did happen in Alice in Wonderland. The queen took 2 flamingos and used them as like putters. I guess with the pink, it was like perfect. Yeah, I did that on purpose. First, I thought it was a swan. That's a pretty good guess, though. Woo, 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 woo. I'm gonna yell that. They're gonna say I'm not paying attention to art class. Okay, let's close that really quick and do 2 more. We'll do 2 more if we have enough words. What's the next one? Oh, I like this one. Oh, I'm gonna change the color again too. We'll do. I think. No, let's do something else. Let's do this color. It's almost like a purple blue almost. Dun dun dun. It's a what? I thought they were golf words. Well, there's a mixture of them. They're not all golf words. There's some random things mixed in from words we didn't do yet. Let's start the round for this one. Okay, this one should be pretty easy. I'll give you a tip. I believe Solar does not like them at all. Solar, I think I would even say hates them. I believe, if I remember correctly. Sorry, Solar. Hopefully it's not jump scares or bad or anything. If Solar's still here. Oh, let's see how many got it. Yeah, it was jellyfish. Jellyfish. Soul loves jellyfish. Oh, my mistake. Okay. Oh, I thought Soul didn't like jellyfish. I heard my name and don't like those. And came back to chat to just agree. But Small said you like them. Small, you being dishonest? Small wouldn't be dishonest. It's Tammy Beans. Tammy Beans, welcome. Here, let me hide the scores. Tammy Beans, you missed earlier. I was talking about all the gluten-free stuff I was eating. Thanks to thanks to you sharing how it was very helpful to you. I want to try it. I'll tell you since you're back right now. I'm sorry. Everybody just give me I need a moment, okay? I need a moment with Tammy, all right? Tammy, listen to me. I got gluten-free pizza from Costco. It was pretty good. I got gluten-free noodles. It was pretty good. I got gluten-free bread at Jersey Mike's. Guess what? It was pretty good. Let me reset this. I'll see if I have a noticeable effect as far as mood or I get superpowers, okay? I'll let you know. Maybe it'll give me superpowers, I don't know. I didn't know Jersey Mike's had gluten-free. Yeah, they do. They do. I think it might be fairly new, because yeah, I don't recall it being on the menu a couple years ago. I saw it, but I never got it. But yeah, it's been there for a little tiny bit, but yeah, they do. Drive safe. What is Tatum doing? I'm gonna drive home. I don't think I'll be back before the end of the stream, so have a good stream. Oh, thank you, Tatum. And you're right, I'll probably be done by then. So I don't know why that's funny to me. But yeah, drive safe. Please drive safe, all right? You can always watch the VOD. You can, oh, let me do something. You can always watch the VOD if you really want to. Ooh. Wait, could this brush like flickers? Make it flick. Oh, wait, can you do like, it's almost like hash. Oh, what if I do this? Wait, can I do like, how do you do calligraphy? Now I'm literally just playing with this now. Reset, please don't break, hopefully this doesn't break it. I shall write Ziggbee. Zig. I'm gonna try to write fancy. Ziggbee. Ooh. Wait, I spelled my name wrong. Wait, is that my name? Oh my gosh, I'm having it. Am I having, oh my gosh. Do I use 2 G's? I think it's 2 G's. Maybe the gluten-free is not helping me, Tammy. I shouldn't blame that though, because I always had a bit of a what are you saying chicken for? Wait, what's going on here? Woo, 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 woo. Your name is right above the canvas. Okay, thanks for embarrassing me, Sandman. Oh my gosh. Let me look at it. Okay, yeah, I got it wrong. That's okay. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Paige. And thank you, Sandman. I know you're helping. You're right. I do that kind of stuff too. Like the answer's like right in front of my face and I don't see it. Let me do a bright. What is this red right here? I want to get this red. Boop. It looks very vibrant. Look at this. Look at this. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna poke you in the face. Sorry. It looks like a blowtorch. It still looks like a blowtorch to me. Shh. Last word, okay? Last word. It's okay. I've done that too, Ziggbee. Thank you, Atreyu. I think it's more like I do it too many times. Show the leaderboard. I will show when I want. Oh my gosh, I got so angry. Sorry. I did show jellyfish, right? One second. It is a wall. Sorry, I didn't want to cough on you. I had to excuse myself briefly. Delicious. The stream's giving off like classroom vibes. Okay, class, we're gonna do the last one for today. Oh, did I show the scores for jellyfish? Jellyfish. First place is Sandman. Second place is Dino Wishes. Also, second place is Lexi. Third place is Noah. Good job. A lot of you got it too. Hide the score. Let me see if there is a last word. Ooh, that one's tricky, but I also like it a lot. I want to try to draw it. How would I draw that? I need to think about that for a moment. Yes, Professor Ziggbee. Thank you, Paige. Thank you, Paige. I appreciate your patience. Psst, you have a redeem. What? Don't be fooling me, Sandman. I'm just joking. What's the redeem? Oh, early good night. Oh, seeing shades. Okay, let me read this really quick. I gotta go back to work. Gotta save the phone battery so I can vibe while work. I hope you and the beans have a good night, day, and enjoy the stream. Night. Good night, Axie. Oh my gosh, the board is absorbing me. Have a good work. That doesn't sound very much fun. Yeah, but yeah, take care and good night when you eventually get finished with work, and then get to relax and hopefully sleep and have good dreams. Thank you, Axie and Shade. Thank you for saying good night and stuff. Thank you. A boing request? Little Miss Lizzie. Okay, fine. Boing. Okay, that's it. That's all you get. No, I was kidding. I'm gonna do it backwards, boing. Boing. Whoa! Let me try that again. Boing. That was pretty far. You see that distance? When I go forward, it's shorter, right? Boing. Boing. They're probably similar, honestly, but I have more fun doing it backwards. I do not recommend you jumping backwards because you can't see where you're going. That's not a good idea. Okay, this is the last word really quick, okay? Listen, Zigbee got places to be, things to do. I gotta meet some person in a warehouse in LA. I got things I gotta do, things I can't talk about. No, I'm joking. Do I want to draw that for real? Yeah, start the round. This is a difficult one though. Oh, no, wait, let me think for a second. Okay, this is gonna be hard, okay? Because I'm gonna be too eccentric about it. That makes, oh, this is what I'm trying to do. That makes sense. That makes sense at all? It's very abstract though, kind of. Hologram, right? Does that count if I use a movie reference? R2D2? No. Well, that is R2D2. I was trying to do an R2D2, was doing a hologram of Princess Leia. Like, it was doing, Obi-Wan, you're my only hope. Obi-Wan. I'm pretty sure that's how she sounded too when it was going. Yes. Sorry, I'm not. Let me erase this. There we go. You said this one too. Okay, let's see how we did for that. Okay. That's a good imitation. Thank you, Sam. I was really trying to get like, it was like near perfect. I'm pretty sure. Show the round scores for hologram. Yeah, that was a more difficult one. We got, I think Fight Mitch is a Star Wars fan. So was Sandman, possibly. Fitz Smiths, your first place. Sandman, your first place for hologram. Then we have Peach Ring Rat, and then we have a Treyu, third place, and then we have some honorable mentions. Little Miss Lizzie and Lean Goddess. Oh, Lean Goddess, what is that big message I just saw pop up on? Hide that score. And first time chatter. Oh my gosh, should I read this? Let me read this in my head just in case. What is going on? Thank you, first time chatter, for giving us, I don't know what that is. Is that from a song? I don't know all references. Whee! Okay, let's see who the champion. Can I eat this? Eat! No, you can't. You definitely can't eat this. Put that over there. Camera, follow me. I want to have a moment here. Okay, everybody, this finally come. Part where we see it's a Metallica one. We finally see who? I thought you said eat. Wait, what? I said yeet. I was eat when I throw things. I say yeet, like Y-E-E-T. You throw. I don't think there's anything to throw here, but yeah. Eat the campus. I guess. No, that's probably doesn't taste very good. Our champion of Pictionary for today is show the game scores. Behold, Sandman. Is it Sandman? 77 points. Whoa. That's too many points, Sandman. That's way too many points. That's very impressive, though. Sandman's first place, definitely the winner of this week's Pictionary. Honorable mentions, I will mention everybody on here. Second place is Dino Wishes. Good job. Second place, there's 2 people, Cardboard Moose and Lexi. Good job. We also have on the board Tatum Pancakes, Paige Mustang, Fight Mitts, Lavender Luna, Atreyu Taylor, featuring Rat Noah, Soul Sorrows, Mount Laurel, Doran, Carby, Doc Keith, Not Chachalala, no, Nat Chachalala, Little Miss Lizzie, Oslo the Otter, I can't, Lean Goddess, and Tina. Oh my gosh. How am I reading that wrong? Or is that one? Wanderer. Is it Tina Wander? Wander and I Wander? I don't know how to say your name, I apologize. You can say it in chat probably too if you want. So I can maybe try to remember. Good job, Sandman. You got first place. Very good job. I can't think of anything else funny to say. So the stream is over. No, I'll give you my beans. Well, not, you can look at them, but not take them. Let's go back. Beep, beep, beep. Go back to the light. There we go. Now it's not complete darkness. Jeez. You may see my beans. There you go. You may see the back of my paws too. You like that too, or no? What do you think? How about these? Think these are good? No, look at. Listen, everybody. Listen, look at this. Look at this. You think I should? Oh my gosh. You think these are good? You think I could take pictures of them and sell them on the internets? Look at some feet pictures there. Okay. There's some beans, okay? There you go. Oh, I could do a pose. I want to do more poses too. Strike a pose. That's cursed. What if I do it from the other angle? Do it right here. Number 6. This is me going to go somewhere. Does my mouth move when I'm in a pose? Hello? No, frozen in time apparently. Okay, sorry, I had to play with that more because that was fun. Okay. I'm in the darkness. Whee! Whoa, there's the light. Where'd it go? Light, where'd you go? Okay, there's the light at. Okay, I found it again. Don't worry. I'm a professional, everybody. I'm a professional. Let's strike a pose. I strike the curse pose. You're welcome. Okay. Oh, grunty kicks. Of course, grunty kicks. Here, let me do it really good, okay? I'm gonna do grunty kicks like someone owes me magic beans. There you go, you get grunty kicks. With a little bit of a story too. You can use your imagination and be like, oh, that's very fun. Old fan art world. Wait, what? Old fan, oh, right. We can go there briefly. It's too big though, Sky. He put his whole... That's spicy. You're saying spicy things. Where's my magic beans? Exactly. I gave you my magic beans. Where's my gold bars? There's some dazzle stars for you. Let's go check the old art world. Let's look around just a tiny bit, okay? I'll see if I have the other world too. It's still up. I think it'd be in like, is there a section for things that I uploaded? Looking. Wait, community labs. Where would it show mine? Where's mine? Updated recently, active cross, multi-platform. They don't have a section for that? Oh, my worlds, here we go. Uploaded. Oh, guess what? The world, the oldest one, it's still here. I don't think anyone can access it, but it's still here. Let's go there. Oh my gosh. We're going on an adventure. I'm taking you to a place I haven't shown in probably over a year. If it's dusty with cobwebs, I apologize. I'm just kidding, it doesn't happen. Everything's kind of frozen in time, space, forever in this place. I'm still laughing. Why are you laughing? What's so funny? Why are you laughing? Wee! Oh my gosh, why am I in the floor? Okay, no. Is this the first one? Oh my gosh, I think this is the first one, possibly. I could be wrong though, but I think this is the first. Okay, let me take off the... Okay, you ready for this treat? You are in a tavern. Well, it's a generic tavern. You're in a generic tavern where I showed off the... Why am I looking down all the time? No, I don't want to show the art yet. No. Okay. I locked the camera. There's some weird glow in this place. Okay, I gotta build it up. This is important. I gotta show showmanship. Ziggbee, will we do another role play stream? I don't know, honestly. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know. There's nothing's planned currently, but if you really liked it, Paige, I don't know. Maybe we'll see. I don't remember seeing this one. Sandman. Oh, Sandman, are you not that old? Who recognizes this place out of curiosity? Is anyone here old enough to know I've seen this place? I like it. I only saw the VOD. Oh my gosh. Okay, let's go unearth this Arcane, what is it called? Arcane stuff. Woo. So over here, very first art. I'll move it closer though too. Let's see here. Yeah. Arts Ziggbee on Twitter did the very first Ziggbee fan arts. It's like ancient, like cave drawings. No, it's beautiful art. I've seen it, but only once. Strawberry Delight. I'm impressed. I am very impressed. I don't remember it either, Peachring Rat says. Yes, this is before anyone probably found me. There's some more. I'll just actually go, I'll pan across it because it's really cool. I'll do like a camera lock. Boop. And then I'll turn the camera. I used to show it like this where I have the camera and then show it. Let's have it also follow the current position, I think. But yeah, I can do like a cool, like a pan. Oh, look at that. Isn't that cute? Look at that. Look at that. That's cool. Oh my gosh. Behold the old ancient art. Whoa, what is that one? That's pretty fancy too. Free beans! Yes, this is the first, I believe the first art. I can double check to make sure because I think it is though. Whoop. Worlds. Like this is from 2022. And the other world is huge, is a huge place. Oh, for fun, do you want to go to the dice place? I haven't been there a long time either. We're just visiting old places. Memories. We're gonna do memories for everybody. Let's remember together. Okay, it's loading. It's initializing. I think the dice still work, hopefully, too. You know, I programmed those dice. I mean, that sounds bad. I didn't cheat and program them to cheat. I mean, I programmed them so they roll and stuff. Oh, there's art here, too. Cool. Where's the camera at? Camera, where are you? You following me, camera? What are you doing? Why am I invisible? Oh, is it pointed the other way? I'm doing like magic tricks. Okay, let me get rid of the be right back. There we go. Welcome to this beautiful place called, it doesn't have a name, it's like a void, but it's very bright here. Oh, this is cute. Who did this one? Oh, look at this one. Gosh, there's like so many fan arts. I have like a treasure trove of fan arts. Ziggbee. Oh my gosh. Oh, that's cute. But you can't see, I'll show you really quick too. If you just want to see some old, it sounds bad when I say it's old. Show you some art. Here, let me fix the camera, lock it. Where is the camera? Camera, what are you doing? There you go, camera. Camera. Then you can wait. I want to go behind the camera. Whoop. No, camera, don't follow me. No. There we go. No, not that either. Okay. All right. Oops. I gotta go like this. Watch as Ziggbee struggles with the camera. All right. Got these ones. Behold. More ancient Ziggbee art. This is fairly newer stuff though. I forget what year exactly. It might have been from 2020 possibly? Or no, 2021? Wait, I forget when I started streaming. I think 2020. Well, what is this? Whoa, this is a little spicy. What is this? Oh my gosh, who did this one? That's a little spicy there. Christmas 2021. Oh my gosh, do you remember the actual time period? Whoa, these are characters that were made like a character creation thing where you can 3D print things. They're like making concepts arts of what it would look like if we had miniatures. That's cool. There's a bat. There's a Christmas bat. What's going on here? I haven't even drawn anything yet. Yeah, that's very true. See, this has been happening for the longest of times. I thought I said it's a no bones day, Sib. What is that? Ruin Sib's sentence. That would be small, I believe. That would be small. Is there a picture behind? Oh no, it's not. Okay. Oh, look at that. It's cute. That's cute. Oh, look at that one too. That's cute too. Is there more like rocks behind here? No, there's not. Is this the original place though? If this is the real place, there should be a little. Oh, there is. Watch this. I think this stuff still works too, even though I haven't been here for a long time either. Let's do that's camera's correct. Okay. Where is it pointing at? Camera, come here. I'm right here. I'll show you some stuff. First things. I did these later. Oh, where is it? Do these float? No, they don't. Wait, can I make them float? No. They're yeetable. I made them tokens. I just took a picture of a ferret and made it into like a token, and you're supposed to put them on the board. It doesn't do anything, but they were just for visual representation of possibly some of the characters and stuff. Look at this. Look at this smart ferret. The smartest of ferret. Here's a guard ferret, like a night ferret. Protects the other ferrets. Who goes there? It's just Ziggbee. I don't know no Ziggbee. What? No. Oh, I did other ones too. Like you can choose what you want to be. I think you chose a wizard when we were playing. There's the wizard, and here's a rogue. Yeet! And then the dice should still work. Let's see. Oh yeah, see, it highlights the number of what side it's on. Is that fancy? It was kind of tricky because VR chat uses a different programming language. I had to convert C# into whatever VR chat uses. Oh, it just rolled off the screen. And all the dice do it. That's one. Where's the 20 side? The 20 side is always the most fun dice. Let me roll it. It's 15. It's 5. You can't see it though. Can you see if I go closer? Boop, 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 boop. Yeet! But yeah, there's 2 sets of dice here. That resets the dice. Boop. This resets the items there. Give me 1 sec. I need some more. Jeez, okay, I'm good now, sorry. Whoa! What's that?
The Duck Voice a Wizard just resubscribed for 8 months.
What? Is that coincidental? Thank you for subscribing tier 1 and being subscribed for 8 months, the Duck who's a wizard. You're a wizard, Duck. Duck, you're a wizard. I really should be doing my coursework. Well, get to work, Lexi. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. That was about it for the stream, though, everybody. I hope you had fun. I'm sure some of you have to get going and do different things. Oh, there's a map on the ground too. I just stole that from Google. Shameless ferret stealing Google images. All right. I hope you had fun. Congratulations again to Sandman for being first place on Pictionary. I hope you enjoyed seeing some of the fan art, and thank you for everyone who allows me to show it on the straw. Susie Q. Susie Q. Making it rain. Thank you, Susie. Thank you, Susie Q, for the very generous direct tip. Very generous. Thank you, Susie Q. Oh my gosh. Is a pre-rolled ads gonna try to run? Can I cancel that? Wait, let me cancel that. Oh my gosh. Pre-rolled ads, get out of here. Oh, where's the button? Where's the button? Ads start in 50 minutes. Oh, they went away. Oh, hopefully you weren't stuck in ads. Okay, sorry. I'm being distracted. Everybody, before I go, I will show you beans, and you can give you a hug if you want, okay? Only if you want. Love you, Ziggbee. Good night. Oh, thank you, Doran. Thank you. Thank you, Ziggbee. You're welcome, Taylor. Here, I'll show you some beans, all right? There you go. I'll even make the magic for you. I don't do that very often now. Well, you don't need magic, right? But just for like a little bit of luck. Woo, 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 woo. There you go. Take a look at my beans. There you go. There you go. There you go. Thank you again, Susie Q. That was very generous of you. That's a very generous tip. There you go. And if you want a hug, come here. I'll give you a hug, all right? Come here. Only if you want. Only if you want. Okay? Now you get big hugs. Woo, woo, woo. Woo, woo, woo. Woo, woo, woo. I'm a wiggly boy, sorry. What else? Oh, woo! Grunty kicks. I'm gonna pretend I can kick this, but I can't. There you go. Grunty kicks of a dice. And boing. And that's it. Am I forgetting anything? Oh, nose boops. I can boop your nose if you want. Boop, 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 boop. And you can boop my nose. I will give today, and today only, maybe again in the future, I don't know. 25 times bonus. Boop, boop, boop. Okay, no more. That's it. Don't worry. You only get a little tiny bit when you get that high of a bonus, okay? All right. Goodbye, everybody. Good night. Hopefully see you again sometime soon, probably on TikTok. If you want to be notified, be in Discord, Twitter, or hopefully be following me on TikTok and have the notification setting turned on. And I will see. Enjoy your flight. It sounds like I'm a stewardess. But yeah, I'll see you again sometime soon, hopefully, and have a good weekend. It's almost here. Tomorrow's Friday, and have a good weekend. Relax and have good treats and stuff. Okay. Bye, everybody. I love you. And Sib loves you too, all right? Sib has been very busy. Sib misses you all very much too, okay? But yes, goodbye. I love you platonically, all right? Platonically. Goodbye, I'm a zoomies. Let's try something. You want to do a gamble before I go? If I can roll a 20 first time, I'll stream for 5 more hours. Oh my god, that was kind of scary. It's 19. It was almost a 20. I can't do it for 5 more hours. Anyways, yeah. See, I can't do it for 5 more hours. That's destiny for you. Okay, bye everybody. I'm gonna head out now. I'm gonna zoomies. I'm gonna back up first. Beep, beep. Bye.